What's up, guys? This is Ty Zen, and I'm broadcasting from the Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain, super duper conference here in the city of Dallas, in the great country of Texas. Okay, and with me today, I have David Fong. Say hello, David.
Hey guys.
So with me also, we have Ronaldo, who is the Chief Communications Officer for the Haas online trading software. And say hello.
How's it going, man? Nice to be here.
So where are you coming from?
So I actually flew in from California. I live in Silicon Valley where I work there.
Okay. Yeah. Is that where Haas Online is based out of?
Interesting enough, Haas Online is actually worldwide, and we like to say that, but really it just means that we're an online company. We have people in different areas of the country. For example, Haas Online proper is in the Netherlands, and then we have people who are in France, we have people who are in Africa, just all around the world. And what you kind of seen here is the U.S. side of Haas Online.
Okay. So there's several. Okay, so before we get started talking about Haas, right? Our audience are always curious to know who it is that we're talking to. Could you talk a little bit about your background and what's your background? Are you in IT and tech? And then how did you get into crypto? And then how did you get into Haas?
Absolutely. So to sum it up, basically my background's in software engineering and network security. Like most people in the crypto space, I do have a normal day job where I do network security, basically red teaming. So your typical hacking into computers type of thing. And then on my other half is I work for Haas Online, and I kind of got into the crypto space kind of randomly. I just kind of decided, I want to go trade cryptocurrency. I didn't know anything about it. And then kind of my movement into Haas was actually because, like any other day trader, I actually was suffering from the emotional side of things, right? I just started, and emotions were killing me at the time, so I looked for some software that did it. And I stumbled on Haas Online, and I bought the license, and then after some turn of events, ended up doing support with them, helping them through that, and now 5 months later, I get to sit here and say I'm the Chief Communications Officer. So kind of a wild ride through that.
Okay, so talk a little bit about, there's a bunch of trading bots, and just so, I just want to define for our viewers real quick, and then you can give us your commentary on what a trading bot is. So David and I and our team, we mostly trade manually. That means that we manually set orders to buy or sell a crypto, and, we calculate that in advance, and then we put it in, and then sometimes we'll have to come in and make adjustments to it. A bot is short for the word robot. And what that means is that it's an automated trading software where you set conditions on it. So if you can tell it, if there's several different types of levels of bots, some are more advanced than others, right? Simple ones are if you tell it, hey, if A happens, do B. If C happens, do D. More advanced ones would be where you set multiple conditions where, hey, if A, B, or C happens, then do X, Y, or Z. And then even more advanced is when you have like technical indicators that, like Bollinger Bands, if I want to buy at the bottom of the Bollinger Bands and sell at the top, the software can automatically do it, right? So talk a little bit about what made you decide to choose this bot software over the others in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, it was flexibility in the team. With a lot of the other software, actually interaction with the direct team is kind of limited. We try to be the complete opposite. You could talk to Stefan, our CEO, in our chat any time of the day he's online or awake, and ask him questions directly, and that's kind of what appealed to me. But also more importantly was the feature set. Haas doesn't restrict me to what custom bots. At the time when I was looking at it, I wasn't restricted by the strategies they implemented. I could actually go in and create my own without any coding knowledge whatsoever.
Okay, so you would say that one of the biggest advantages of Haas is that people like myself who's not technical can go in there and use it without having to know how to program a computer.
Absolutely. So it really requires zero programming knowledge to come in and use our software. And that's not just applying to our custom built-in strategies, but also applies to any strategies that you want to bring in. Because we like to believe that Haas is an extension of yourself. If I could trade 24/7, that'd be great. Well, with our software, you can actually implement your own trading strategy the way you would.
Okay. What was the question you had earlier offline? Okay. So my first thought about this would be like, okay, so when I input you have custom strategies that you have on there already. Okay, can you talk about those?
Yeah, so we have your typical strategies that you would expect to see, like your scalpers and your ping pongs. This is generic strategies that everybody's familiar with. It's a good starting point. But what we actually have is our bread and butter bots, which are things like our flash crash bot, which is designed to take advantage of the sudden price dips in the market. Basically, that's just kind of like a spread order. I set a 0.2% spread, buy down and sell up, and it just does that automatically for us. Then you have what we're moving more towards, helping out the individuals who aren't familiar with, how most of the technical indicators work. So we actually built one that allows you to trade on trend lines. So if all you know how to do is build trend lines on a chart, you can come into our software, draw these trend lines on a chart, let the bot go, and it'll actually execute trades based on those. And then finally, we have what we're considering currently our flagship bot, which is our Mad Hatter bot, which is a custom strategy that I myself came up with. And basically it uses 3 basic indicators, but they're modified. So for those who are familiar, real quick, it uses a Bollinger Band, a MACD, and an RSI. But the difference between our standard indicators and the Mad Hatter indicators, they fire early, so they're designed to predict the change in the direction of the market. So, for example, on MACD, predicting the crossing point. And they also use a bit of their historic data, so the past trades it's made to make its decisions, and that's kind of why we dub it what it is. And it requires all 3 to make a decision.
Okay.
So I remember my question, which was, okay, so if I want to get involved, if I want to use this software, do I need to go open up an account at these different exchanges? How does that all work with the account?
Absolutely. So in order to use our software, you must have an account on all the exchanges you want to trade on, and basically the software runs on your clients, on your side. So we don't do any interactions, we don't touch your API keys, and it requires your API keys into our software to communicate with those exchanges.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm going to pause real quick and just explain to our audience what a client side and server side is. I don't like getting technical like this, but it's important that our audience understands this aspect, or else it won't make sense to them as far as security goes. Okay, so one thing that you guys need to be aware of is the Haas is an interface software, which means that it goes on top of what the exchanges do. Right, so in the traditional world, this would be the equivalent. The Haas trading software would be equivalent to like Ninja Trader, right? So it connects to like interactive brokers, and it connects to like TP futures.
Yeah, CQG. Like it just has. There's a lot of different brokers, but this software is on top of them and can connect to various ones.
Yeah, and the reason why these types of softwares exist is that most of the exchanges, they're busy building out the software to trade on their exchanges, and they don't have time to build like a user-friendly interface. So companies like this will come in and they'll build basically the interface software so that you can use their exchanges much easier and for different purposes. Like in this case, it's for the automated trading, right? So there's a term called client side and server side, means that if the software, like Ninja Trader, you can host it on client side, which means that you can install it on your personal computer and keep it at home, and your computer is running it, right? Then there's also what's called server side, which means that it's at the brokerage firm's servers, and the software runs on their servers, so you have to log in and connect and do the trading there, right? And so on your Haas online, is it client side software, or is it server side?
Yeah, so with your terminology, Haas lives 100% client side. The only thing that ever comes to us, so any connections you make back to Haas, is strictly for historic market data.
Okay. So,
quick question. So back in the traditional trading days, when we had client-side software versus server-side software, one of the trade-offs we had to consider was that our client-side computer always had to be on in order for the orders to trigger. So how do we deal with, so just in case you have an order to sell if the market drops very quickly, but your computer isn't on, how does Haas deal with that situation?
So obviously, because our software is client-side, you have to have your computer running, but if we find, or should I say, almost all of our users actually have their own VPS set up. So VPS, non-technical, it's a private server that you can rent for a nominal fee a month, and you run our software on that. That way it's always online 24/7. And an advantage of doing it this way is we don't know what exchange you want to trade on. And the beauty of it is if you know where the exchange is located, for example, if you're trading on, let's say Bittrex, you want to be in New York or close to it, you can set up your server in New York so you have less latency than, let's say, setting it up in Texas.
Okay, so let's talk about real quick about the security, computer security with Haas here, right? So for the people that don't know or have never heard of a bot software before, so basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? So basically, I go to major exchanges like Binance, like Bittrex, like Poloniex, and then I create an API key, and it gives me a secret code, and then I come into the Haas software, I insert that code in there, and so now the Haas software allows me to trade. It knows that it's me, Ty, that's connecting to the exchanges, and it's not a fake a hacker or somebody else. So that I can only make trades. I cannot withdraw or deposit money in. Is that correct?
Correct. So Haas actually has zero functionality for withdrawals or deposits, and that's by design. We don't want anybody to ever feel like they're at risk because of using our software. So in fact, if you try to make an API key with withdrawal, we can detect that. We'll actually decline the API key because we don't want withdrawal capabilities. And that's more so to protect both sides. For whatever reason, software is not perfect. If there was to be something that was found on our side, we don't want your API key to be at risk.
So, and that's to reduce your company liability, and obviously for the traders, reduce the risk for the trader. And then what do you guys do to prevent somebody from hacking into the software or things like that to accidentally, or the hacker may not try to steal the funds, but at least try to make a bogus trade that might damage the account or something?
Sure. So basically, like anybody else, we do our standard security lookups. I have a background in security, so I've looked at the software myself. Admittedly, we are still doing better. As things come up, we're like any other software company. There are issues that sometimes come up, and we have to correct them. But as far as general authentication, we do support two-factor authentication to your trade account, which on top of that, you have your two-factor on top of your exchange. And like I said, your API keys don't have withdrawal or deposit capabilities, so if worst case scenario, something was to happen to our software, and we do store your API keys securely. If it was to be leaked, you still have that reassurance that, okay, the most I can do is do a trade.
And then is the API keys encrypted and stored on the client side, or is it on server side on y'all servers?
So everything's on client side. Like I said, Haas does not touch any API keys. We don't interact with any of your trades. All of that's directly from your server to the exchange itself.
So now, if you guys are wondering why we don't use bot trading in our style of trading, and we don't teach it at our boot camps, is because of two issues, right? One is the real-time data, okay, and the second one is liquidity, right? So let's talk about the real-time data first, right? So does the Haas software, does it allow me to get live streaming data from the exchanges? Because a lot of the stuff that we test in the traditional stock market, there's usually a delay. It can be anywhere from 1 minute to a 15-minute delay if you get free data, right? The only time that we have seen where we get live streaming data, real-time data, 100% truly real-time data, is if we pay for the data. So can you talk about the data stream and how real-time is it?
Okay, so that's a great question. So Haas does have a 1 minute tick time. That's what our bots generally operate on. But it's important to note that you are still receiving real-time data. Actually, we have no market data subscription. You're not getting real-time data from us. All you get from us is historic data. So when you're doing your back testing, when you're looking at your charts, that's where you get data from us. All of the real-time data actually comes directly from the exchange, whether it be through their WebSocket interface, if they have it, or their REST API. So your latency comes down to your connection to the exchange itself.
So does the price data, is it coming directly? Let's just use Binance for example, since they happen to be the biggest exchange that I know of right now. That does the data for the Haas come directly from Binance, or does it come from a data provider? Because sometimes we also aggregate data, and then we also sell data back to that's one of our business is aggregating data and then reselling it back to users, right? So does the Haas software get it directly from the data providers such as Binance, the exchange, or does it come from a third-party data provider?
So Haas, when you're actually running on your software, when you activate the price driver, it's actually going to start collecting real-time data from the exchange to your server. if you start looking in the past, let's say a week ago, a day ago, before you started your software, then you actually touch our historic data servers. We don't charge for any of that. It's included in your license cost.
Okay. So now, in the traditional stock trading world, one of the things that they had problems with was that the bots, the stock trading bots, and the forex trading bots, they would ping the exchanges constantly, right? And they would put orders in, cancel orders, put orders in, cancel orders, and they would do this thousands of times in a minute. And do you guys have something in here? I mean, if I was to do that on the Haas software, wouldn't that irritate and frustrate the exchanges because I'm pinging them constantly for data?
Yeah, so actually that's a very common question. We actually have existing relationships with most of the exchanges we currently support, and like anything else, in order to use their APIs, we have to abide by their rules. They have rate limit rules, etc. And for your example, we aren't trading on millisecond timeframes or even second timeframes. Most of our bots trade on the minute. So no, we actually have a very small footprint for most of these exchanges, but that depends on how many bots you're running. Obviously, the more bots means the more API requests that go through, and then you have to start dealing with rate limits. Now, we generally do handle most of the API limitations. Our software is intelligent enough to handle. I have 100 bots that need to communicate right now, but I know that they'll rate limit me if I do it, so batch them, things like that. We do facilitate some of that actions.
Okay, so just so that the viewers and the people who are looking at this to use the Haas trading software, is it safe to say that you guys, the fastest that you can go is there's going to be a 1 minute lag always, right?
So when we say 1 minute lag, you're still collecting real-time data. It's just our bots operate on a 1 minute candle rather than a millisecond data. So as the price fluctuates, you're getting that information in, but your bot will only execute at the end of a candle.
Okay. So the signal doesn't trigger until it only triggers at most once a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've been talking about 1 minute and these smaller time frames. Our trading style tends to be a little higher time frame. Can you talk about what this might be more appropriate for, or what it's designed for in terms of
or how it can help long-term traders like us?
So actually, our software does allow you to pick the time frame for most of our bots, especially the trade bots that you guys design yourselves, anywhere from 1 minute to 3 hour to 6 hour to 12 hour to a day if you want. If you want to trade on day signals, you definitely can with our software. Most of our custom bots are designed for the smaller type of trader who are trading on the smaller time, 15, 30 minute, but for long-term traders like yourselves, we do facilitate that. So for example, our flash crash bot's based on percentage. So if you want long-term swings, just increase the percentage amount for that given order. And I'll leak it a little bit right now because we're having this interview. Most of long-term traders have a rather large holding, right? They have their long-term holds where they're actually I have Ethereum, I'm just planning on holding. What we have coming out soon, and what I mean soon is it'll probably be out before this airs, is we actually going to have our index bot. So if I don't know how familiar you guys are with indexes.
We are actually going to release one of the first cryptocurrency broad market indexes next month. Yeah, so we created the Taifu indexes, and you can see it at taifuindexes.com. And it's the first cryptocurrency broad market index that we know of that's actually out there on the markets, and it's been out since
It was out since June last year?
Yeah. It's been out since June last year. The alpha has, and then the beta is going to come out next month.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, if it's purely price data and what percentages to use, we could probably discuss facilitating that, because what our bot's designed to do is maintain your index based on portfolio percentages. So let's say you have Ethereum and you want it to hold 10% of your total portfolio. If Ethereum rises, what we'll do is we'll actually sell off part of that Ethereum to make it into the portfolio and put it in what we call our BTC reserve. And then what happens is when your other coins start dropping, we buy more coins on the dip. So what eventually happens is your long-term holds accumulate more coins over time rather than just being static.
Okay, so this is what you would refer to as an index bot. So let's say that once we release the beta of our Taifu indexes next month, right? I'm hoping it's on time. I'm saying that because he's the one that's responsible for getting it out on time, right? So let's say that once we get that out, so how would we incorporate that into the Haas software, or how would a trader out there that wants to use the Taifu indexes and set their trading strategies to follow and clone the Taifu indexes, how would someone go about doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like in most of our bots, it's going to be rather straightforward to configure. Add a coin to the index, give it a percentage and a threshold. We can talk about that's more technical later. But what we can discuss is obviously we have a format for sharing, importing, and exporting our index, and we could discuss having you export your current Typhoon index in the right format, and we pull it directly into Haas.
So the other, so I mentioned earlier that the two things that has prevented us in the past from using bots, one was the streaming data, the real-time streaming data, and then the second thing was that the liquidity, right? So earlier you mentioned offline that if someone wants to trade, they need to make sure that they set the quantity of the cryptocurrency accurately. So if something only trades, let's say, a small volume of like a few 100,000 a day, then don't set orders to fill one Bitcoin at a time, right?
Exactly. So like most of the other bots, alongside just the parameters for correct trades, you also have to be mindful of the order book. Most of these markets, especially smaller, or should I say smaller coins, they run at maybe 50 Bitcoin volume, so you can't just drop a one Bitcoin order in there. So we generally just say, look at the average order on the order book, set that to your amount, and you're generally good to go.
So is that something that the user is going to be able to know easily, or how are they going to figure that out, or is it pre-populated with the appropriate amount?
So currently, no. Haas does. We try to facilitate as much as we can, but we still want to make sure the user's involved. So we don't pre-populate the amount, but basically, the user has to do a little effort, look at the order book, get a guesstimation of what you think is going to fill, put it in.
Okay, so like for safety, whenever we're training new traders, new cryptocurrency traders in our boot camps, right? We let them know that, hey, if the volume is this much, right? Let's say, I'm going to make up a number as an example. Let's say if it only trades like $500,000 US dollars worth a day, then you don't want to put in orders that's more than, let's say, 1 or 2% of the daily volume, right? Because it's too dangerous. Meaning that you can get slipped, your orders may not get filled, your stop losses may not get filled, right? And do you guys have some kind of safety valve or mechanism built in so that if a new user tries to put in an order for like one Bitcoin on something that only trades like $200,000 or $300,000 in volume a day, that you guys would like have a warning or like prevent that from happening?
So we actually don't, and there's reason for this, because we do have some traders who want to put a one Bitcoin order inside those smaller markets. So we can't, we generally, we have to limit how much hand holding we actually do, because some traders do have strategies in mind that require putting a large order inside of a small market.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that you censor or dictate how the traders should use their trading strategy, but at least flash a warning and say, hey, based on the volume of this trading pair, that this could disrupt the market and go against you instead, or something like that.
We currently do not have something like that.
Okay. I personally would recommend something like that, to your developers, because, in case someone's new and they don't know that that's going to disrupt the market and there's a possibility, you're not censoring them, but at least give them a warning that so they can, at least click OK and before that, just for safety, for traders' safety. Okay. So, what other who is this designed specifically for? Because from just my understanding of bots in the past, and from what you've shared with me, right? Someone that's trading like a 7, 8, 9 figure account, it's really hard to push that much volume through a bot, because most of that stuff is done like offline, off exchange, So, what is the ideal customer or the ideal trader that this would serve the best? Like who's the primary target for this software?
So I actually will disagree with you. We actually are partnered with a few funds right now, a few large crypto hedge funds that actually do push a large amount of volume with our software. So I wouldn't say we're limited in that aspect, but generally it's our software is targeted at individuals who already know how to day trade, who understand a bit of the technical information or technical aspects of day trading, and bringing that into our software. So I would say if you're new to trading, continue developing those skills. We definitely don't want you to come to us and buy our software thinking we're just going to make it easy, because in fact, we require you to have that foundational knowledge in order to make our bots profitable. A bot's only profitable if the person behind it is also capable of being profitable.
Okay. And when you say before, be experienced before the people come and purchase your software, can you give us an overview about that? You don't have to go into like specific details about the pricing and everything, because I know that changes constantly. But can you talk about the different membership levels or the different software levels that people can purchase?
Absolutely. So we actually, so we discussed this a little offline, but we do not take anything off the top. And by what I mean by that is some of the trading software out there will actually take a portion of your profits as their fee. We don't do anything of that. Ours is a complete license model. So you license our software for a given amount of time, and we have 3 licenses. So we have our beginner, our simple, and our advanced. Most people, if they buy the basic, they end up buying the advanced anyways. It's kind of once they realize what our software can do and the limitations that the earlier licenses impose, they want it all, they go for the advanced. But our licenses are broke up into 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And based on which license level and what price you buy depends on the feature set available.
And then is there and what is the duration of those licenses? Is it like any other software where it's a one-time price and then you get the software for life, or is that how many upgrades does it include, or talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So, a lot of people get a little upset when we say our license model is based on months, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, or a year. But the reason because of this is we don't just release the software and call it a day. There are some other software out there that, their updates are kind of slim. We're updating our software every day. We're constantly improving our software. And a lot of people will say that every day, but let me give you an example. 3 weeks ago, we released 2 bots for our basic and our simple license. Next week, we're releasing another bot for our basic license, and that's not including feature sets on top of it, constant bug fixes, and your real-time support, which is where that time frame actually helps us.
Okay.
So I'm glad you talked about your team. We've seen a lot of volume increases in all the exchanges. How big is your team? And if I do run into problems, who do you have working on it?
Sure. So our team's about 15 to 16 deep. And we actually have 3 pure support guys that are there to help you. And like I was saying earlier, with interaction with a team, you can find me in our support channels. You can find our CEO there. We're all pulling the weight. As our company grows, more and more people come in asking questions, etc. And it's kind of one of those fine lines where, well, in order for us to get people who can answer the hard questions, which most people are having, we need people who understand our software, know how to trade, which is kind of that fine line of finding someone who knows how to trade, uses our software, can be helpful in support, and wants to do support.
So earlier I mentioned that we don't do a lot of bot trading because of the liquidity issues, and the volume that we trade. And you mentioned that you guys are working with several funds that are doing large volume, And so the first thing that comes to my mind is that, we don't do a lot of like short-term trading, because every short-term trade constitutes a taxable event, not just a fee, but like we know that the minute we make that trade in the U.S., right, it gets counted as short-term capital gains, which is treated as ordinary income, which is the same as working a 9-to-5 job, right? So that's basically putting us in the highest tax bracket. So every time we make a trade, we have to pay like 37% taxes under the new Trump tax plan, plus I think an additional 3% or something like that for the Obamacare tax. So it's like a 40% transaction fee for us every time we make a trade. So how do you guys have anything in your software that helps to calculate the cost basis for tax purposes?
So at current time, the version we brought does not have a cost basis or a way of telling you what the price, like you said, a cost basis. We do have some stuff coming up in the pipeline to help you track your portfolio. But for something regarding that, I still highly recommend a piece of software that is more focused on that. So a majority of the people who come to our software and they need to track this type of tax information, we point them, look, go with the guys who are doing it, who have been doing it for a while, and we usually recommend coin tracking for that.
So now to wrap things up here, right, what would you say, what is the best way if somebody sees this video and they want to learn more about the Haas software, what is the best way for them? Who do they contact at Haas? Where's the best place to go to find out more information, and who do they need to talk to?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few places you can get the information, but really the best place, just go to our website, haasonline.com. and join our Telegram. You'll find myself there, our CMO there, and we're willing to answer any questions you guys might have.
Okay, so is it okay if I share your contact information with our viewers, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so just for computer security reasons, here's the Ronaldo's contact information right here, guys, right? I'm going to hold it there, and that way you guys can get the information right there. Okay? Right? Okay. Yeah, because I don't want people to go, because there's so many phishing websites out there that I want people to go to the correct website just for computer security reasons, right? All right. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this interview and sharing the information about the Haas online, right? And we'll look forward to seeing more of what you guys do, right? So if you guys like these types of videos that we do with boots on the ground type of investing approach and research, make sure you guys go to www.cryptocurrency.market/newsletter and follow us there and subscribe, and this is where we broadcast out the videos for it. So thanks for watching this video, guys, and we'll see you guys in a future video.
Right now, I'm down here kind of seeing what the